We are hearing Bhagavad Gita. We heard yesterday Krishna told there are 20 kinds of remedies to remove the dirt for the vitiation of the body and mind, so not coveting any honor, etc. And then in explanation it was said that unalloyed devotion to the Supreme Lord stands foremost and the rest as accessories, which serve to purge the kshetra of its foreign dirt and make it an immaculate plain for the spiritual sports of the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna and his eternal consort, the goddess of Bhakti. When one devotee surrenders to Krishna under the guidance of pure devotee, then his body will become transcendental, will become purified. It will be properly engaged in natural function. Gyeyam yat tat pravakshami yad gyatvam ashnute anadimat parang brahma nasattan nasat uchyate. I tell you what the principle of Gyeya is, that is to say, what ought to be known in full, knowing which a jiva can obtain immortal life. That knowable principle is without a beginning, is subject to me, is Brahman, and is said to be beyond the region of cause and effect. Explanation: O Arjuna, I have told you about the principles of Kshetra and Kshetragya. That is to say, Kshetra refers to the physical frame, its nature, and its perversions with their effects, and Kshetragya refers to Jivatman and Paramatman. Now let me tell you about the principle of Gyeya, that is to say, that which ought to be known in full with the help of Vigyan. That knowable principle gives immortal life, is beginningless, is subject to me. This is subject to me will be later explained in chapter 14, verse 27, that Krishna is the cause of that impersonal Brahman, is beyond the scope of all gross, asat, and subtle sat forms, and also beyond all causes and effects in this matter. When that noble principle is known, the nectar of my devotion is then tasted, because you come to the transcendental platform. Sarvatah pani padam tat, sarvatok shishiro mukam, sarvatah shruti maloke, sarvam avritya tishtati. That knowable principle, that eternal entity, has hands and feet, ears and eyes, and heads and faces everywhere, and he exists in the universe, encompassing all that exists. Explanation: just as the rays of the sun are manifestations of what exists in him, so the principle of Brahman, which is infinite and all-pervading, is one of my manifest aspects, Krishna's manifest aspect. He is the receptacle of all that exists in the world, and he permits in and through all of them. All beings from Brahma down to the minutest ant, possessing infinite hands, feet, eyes, heads, faces, ears, etc., and visible everywhere, are his cosmic manifestations. here there is one note. It should be noted that this shloka is an unambiguous interpretation of the aphorisms of Shruti. This one, Sarvam Kalo Idam Brahma, Brahmai Vedam Sarvam, which, though seemingly contradictory, indicate the doctrine of Achintya Bheda Abheda, that is to say, all beings with their innumerable hands, feet, eyes, ears, etc., are simultaneously existent in and distinct and non-distinct from the all-pervading Parabrahman, distinct in the sense that all beings are his infinitesimal potencies existing in him with all their infinitesimal limbs, and non-distinct in the sense that they are Chetan, infinitesimals, that is to say, atomic spiritual beings that can take the initiative, means they have free will, and hence identical with him in respect of quality. Then from Mundaka Upanishad, Dvasuparna Sayujja, that two are seated in this body. One is Jivatma, one is Paramatma. So we are identical with Krishna in the sense that we are both Chetan, conscious beings, and have free will, unlike matter, which is Achetan, unconscious, and cannot take initiative. But at the same time, we are also different. He is big and all-pervading. We are small and not all-pervading. And we cannot exist separately from him because we are his potency. So this Shruti means in Upanishads, Sarvam Kalo Idam Brahma means everything in this world is Brahma. And Brahmai Vedam Sarvam. Brahma is everything. So this one should understand in the sense of Achintya Bheda Abheda. Everything is he because his potency is non-different from him. But at the same time, we should not also think in a wrong way. There is also difference between him as energetic and his potencies. Sarvendriya gunabhasam sarvendriya vivarjitam asaktam sarva brichaiva nirgunam guna bhoktricha. That knowable principle of Parabrahman manifests all the functions of the senses, is yet devoid of all mundane senses, ever detached or disassociated from all mundane phenomena, is yet, as Vishnu, the main support of the universe, is nirguna, that is to say devoid of all mundane qualities, and yet, as Bhagavan, is the possessor of all the 6 supreme qualities. This is in conformity with Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Apani Pado Javano Grahita, etc. So, all this is there. This is again Achintya Bheda Abheda. Bahir antascha bhutanam acharam charam evacha shukshmatvat tat avigyeyam Durastam chantike chatat. That great principle of Parabrahman dwells both within and without all beings, is both movable and immovable by reason of his subtlety, is unintelligible, and is simultaneously far and near. This is in conformity with Ishopanishad. Tad dure tadantike means he's very far but also very near. Very near to those who surrender to him, and very far for those who are averse to him. This we cannot actually understand with material senses and mind. It is beyond. We can just hear the revelation and accept it and practice accordingly, and then with transcendental eyes we will be able to understand what all this means. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva chastitam bhuta bratri cha tadgyeyam grasishnu prabhavishnu cha. Though undivided, yet he exists in all beings as distributed. He is known as the prop of all, and at the same time is the creator and destroyer of all that exists in the world. 1 second. Prop. Because this is beyond our imagination, how this is. Our mind can only conceive what we perceive with these senses here in this world, and this is totally beyond and of different dimension. So how he's undivided and at the same time distributed and all these things we cannot actually understand with our imagination and intelligence. Like we can only accept by surrender and realize through revelation. Prop means a pole or beam used as a temporary support or to keep something in position. So he's known as the prop of all, and at the same time is the creator and destroyer of all that exists in the world. Jyotisham apita jyotis tamasah param uchyate jnanam gyeyam gyanagamyam hridi sarvasya vishtitam. He is the light of all lights. That is to say, all mundane luminaries emanate from him. Right? Katha Upanishad, this verse, Natatra Suryo Bhati, etc. He transcends all darkness and is ever radiant. Then again, from Shruti, Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat, etc. He is the truth or knowledge which manifests in pure intelligence. He is accessible to true knowledge, which was explained before in those verses, that forgiveness and all those qualities, and is the noble principle himself. He is the indweller seated in the hearts of all. Because this Bhagavad Gita is Gita Upanishad, like one kind of Upanishad, but it is actually the essence of all the Upanishads. So Krishna himself here is telling all these truths which are explained, which are revealed there in the Upanishads, here their essence. So here these comparisons are given, or corresponding verses in Upanishads. Like, if one reads Bhagavad Gita, then he will get all the knowledge which is there in the Upanishads. And if one reads Bhagavatam, he will get everything what is there in Vedanta Sutra and more. It is described. But all Siddhanta is there. Iti kshetram tatha jnanam gyeyam choktam samasataha madbhakta etad vigyaya madbhavayopapadyate. And in the same way, Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavat, they are the essence of all Bhagavatam Siddhanta and describing the lila of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's avatar. In Bhagavatam, many avatars are described, but in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu, who is mentioned there in Bhagavatam, is elaborately described. And Siddhanta also all is there from Bhagavatam, we were hearing. Iti kshetram tatha jnanam gyeyam choktam samasataha madbhakta etad vigyaya madbhavayopapadyate. O Arjuna, I have briefly described the principles of kshetra, jnana, gyeya, and jnana gamya, beginning with anadi and ending in adishtitam. This is known as Gyan based on Vigyan. My devotees attain Nirguna Prema by means of this Vigyan. Explanation. The non-devotees are deprived of this Prema owing to their meaningless sectarianism of oneness with Brahman. Jnana is nothing but the immaculate glowing of bhakti, the unadulterated devotional function of all jivas. There is but one truth, one principle, one knowledge, and that is the absolute person. In Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, 11th verse, which says, the knowers of the principle of truth, T capital, call that principle the only reality without a second, that is Advaya Gyan Tattva, and that reality is represented by the nomenclatures, means names of Brahman, Paramatman, and Bhagavan, according as he manifests himself to those who seek him through the different paths of Jnana, Yoga, and Bhakti respectively. They are one, they are not different from each other, not separate, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. They are one undivided truth. So, but realization of that one undivided truth has different levels. Jnanis, they can realize that light coming from Krishna. Yogis, they can realize Paramatma as partial manifestation of Krishna, and devotees, through devotion, they can realize Bhagavan, and simultaneously they also realize Brahman and Paramatma, because they are not separate from him. Right, Narad Pancharatra, which says, just as a pearl appears blue, red or yellow according as it is reflected, so achyuta appears in different aspects according to the dhyan or the process of sadhana of the aspirant, how he meditates on that truth, through what process. Then he will get that revelation. Prakriti-Purusham chaiva vidyanadi ubhau api vikaramscha gunamschaiva vidi prakriti sambhavan. O Arjuna, know that Prakriti and Purusha are both beginningless, and know also that their perversions and qualities are also alike. They are alike born of Prakriti. Explanation. There are three principles in the existence of a fallen soul, viz. Prakriti, Purusha and Paramatman. Akshetra is known as Prakriti, Ajiva is a Purusha, and Paramatman is my immanent aspect in both Prakriti and Purusha. Both of them are without beginning, and they exist before the commencement of time. They are not born of time, but they coexist in my spiritual eternity, means Purusha and Prakriti, Maya. They are eternally existing. This time, what we are experiencing here is only felt by fallen jiva when becomes averse and is enveloped by Maya, then this time. But actually, the Prakriti and Purusha, they are eternal. The cosmic potency was dormant in me and was manifest in mundane time at my will. When Mahavishnu goes to sleep, means when he inhales, then everything is dormant in him. And then again, he manifests by his will. A jiva emanating from my eternal marginal potency is engrossed by my Mayic potency when he forgets me and his real self. In fact, a jiva is a pure chit principle, means spiritual, and lying in between chit and achit potency, means spiritual and material. Chit here in this relation means Swarup Shakti, transcendental realm, and achit potency means this material world. So jiva is pure chit principle, and lying in between chit and achit potencies is liable to be enthralled by achit or Mayic potency. Liable. When becomes averse to Krishna, then she will be enthralled. But if she takes shelter of Supreme Lord through Swarup Shakti, then she will not be bound by Maya. Human intellect cannot comprehend how a spiritual atomic part of chit potency is overcome by Mayic potency. The reason is that my inconceivable potency does not submit to your limited human understanding. Yes, our understanding, human, this mental and intellectual capacity is limited, and this is beyond this. So you cannot know this unless it is revealed to you. So far, you should know that the perversions and the qualities of a fallen soul are the effects of his coming in contact with my Maic potency and are not the real nature of his unadulterated existence. Maya and Jiva are my eternal potencies, so their mutual attachment is also eternal. When Jiva is averse, is eternally averse. When is inclined to serve Krishna, is eternally there, because Nitya Mukta, Nitya Bada, because this is all beyond time. Whatever Jiva does is of eternal nature. And like when if you have one house with ground floor, first floor, and second floor, if you are situated in first floor, then above is second floor, down is ground floor. So if you go up or if you go down, you still remain in same house. Only you changed your position inside the same house. Like that, Jiva is eternal. Whatever she does is eternally doing. So we can enter into Goloka, which is eternal, or we can enter into this world, which is also eternal, but always manifested and unmanifest like this, but perpetually going on. That is why it is said, Nitya Bada. When Jiva is Bada, means bound, is eternally bound. And when Jiva is liberated, is eternally liberated. Because Jiva is eternal. But that does not mean that Jiva was always here. Because we can change our position in eternity. So that marginal plane is beyond this material time. If we want to enjoy Maya, then we will enter this Maya, and that will be counted as eternal bondage. But that eternal bondage does not mean that literary eternal, that there could be no other prior existence of Jiva to her bondage. Some, they misunderstand like that. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained that because that marginal potency is beyond time. So that is why we cannot say when Jiva, in consideration of this material time, when Jiva became averse. We cannot say with any material time. So it is called as Anadi or Nitya Bada, because it is beyond this material time. And also when Jiva is Bada, you cannot, it is always Bada until she changes her position in eternity by her action. When Jiva is averse to Krishna, is eternally averse. When Jiva is inclined to serve Krishna, is eternally inclined. But this we cannot understand with this human intellect by imagination like this. It has to be revealed by the grace of Supreme Lord to a surrendered soul. Then one can understand what is the meaning of these words, which Shastras or pure devotees they are saying. That you can understand only when you yourself also get realization by the grace of Krishna, then you can say, oh, this was meant. But if you try to understand the words of Shastra and pure devotees, realized souls who are seeing in Samadhi everything, if we try to understand by our material understanding, then we will fail to understand. And we will not be able to harmonize different statements in Shastra. We will think they are contradictory because our understanding of that is limited and we will think it is contradictory to that statement, but it is not. Only when one gets a realization, then he can see, oh, this is what was meant. So here, although they are mutually attracted, they are essentially different entities, means Maya and Jiva. The physical and mental changes, such as pleasure and pain, grief and infatuation, etc., of a Jiva, are the outcome of his gross and subtle nature, which has been transformed into his own kshetra, having therefore a direct relation with Maya Prakriti. And is as the phenomenal appearance is Maya Prakriti, so a Jiva's kshetra, means body and mind, has a closer touch with my Maya Prakriti. But the real nature of a Jiva is quite different from Maya Prakriti. Our body and mind belong to Maya Prakriti, but Jiva is superior quality. Before Krishna told in 7th chapter, Apara Prakriti and Para Prakriti, but both belong to him. So our Gurudev used to say always that actually we belong to Krishna fully. Everything belongs to him. So all should be engaged in his service. Our material body, mind, and soul all belong to Krishna. Karja karana kartritve hetu prakritir uchate purusha sukha dukhanam bhoktritve hetur uchate. Prakriti is the source of all mundane causes and effects, while Purusha is the prime principle of experiencing pleasure and pain, of things which he derives from his perverted egotism. Explanation: a free soul is void of egotism, of enjoying mood which overtakes him only in his fallen state. He thus becomes an enjoyer of sense objects. He has derived this aptitude of lording it over phenomena from his marginal tendency. Marginal tendency means he can go this side or that side. So those jivas who wanted to enjoy, they became fallen and they were overtaken by this Maya, and enjoying mood is there. Here, karjo or effect refers to the body. Karan, cause, to the senses, and kartritva, agent, to the presiding deities of the senses. All the three belonging to Prakriti, which is transformed into Karjo by coming into touch with Purusha, who as a fallen soul enjoys pleasure and pain, the affections of Prakriti. Although Prakriti is at the root of Karjo, Karan and Kartritva and Bhoktritva, that is in enjoyment, still she preponderates over the first three due to preponderance of grossness in her. while Purusha, being a spiritual atomic part, is responsible for his enjoyment of pleasure and pain. Hence, he is overwhelmed by Prakriti for his abnormal enjoying mood. So this Karjo, Karan and Kartritva. Cause and effects. And Kartritva, agent, to the presiding deities of the senses. That means demigods. Without them, it is not happening. So all these three belong to Prakriti, means material. And Bhoktritva is one who enjoys. That is the Purusha. Purusha feels pleasure and pain, not the body directly. If you try to pinch with needle one dead body, he will not say, ow. Only when a living entity is inside, if you push needle, then he will say, ow, because he feels. When Jiva leaves this body, then there is no thinking, feeling, and willing in the body. But when Jiva is averse to Krishna, is fallen Jiva, is inside, then she will experience pleasure and pain in relation to this material happenings. Not transcendental pleasure, this mundane. And pain, pleasure and pain, mundane, because absorbed in matter. And also, yes, Purusha, being a spiritual atomic part, is responsible for his enjoyment of pleasure and pain. How he is responsible? Because he became averse to Krishna by the misuse of his relative independence. He wanted to enjoy, so he's responsible that he is now getting this mundane enjoyment of pleasure and also getting pain. Hence, he is overwhelmed by Prakriti for his abnormal enjoying mood. For Jiva, it is abnormal to want to enjoy, because we are not the enjoyer. Krishna is the enjoyer. We are to be enjoyed by him. We are his servants. So this is unnatural, and this is then the punishment. Punishment for our own good, so that we can realize that that was a wrong decision. Purushah prakriti stohi bhunkte prakriti jangunan karanam guna sangosya satasat yoni janmasu. A jiva enthralled in Prakriti enjoys the three qualities born of Prakriti. Attachment for those qualities is the cause of all his good and evil births. Explanation. A jiva, being of marginal potency, forgets his real nature and, coupled with Prakriti, utilizes her three qualities for his selfish enjoyment, and attachment to those qualities breeds good and evil births for him. By reason of his false identification with gross and subtle forms, due to the influence of avidya, a fallen soul considers himself as the enjoyer of the sense objects and the pleasures accruing therefrom, and is thus entangled in the shackles of Maya. Maya ridden, he thinks that he is the sole proprietor of his body and mind. So he begins to enjoy the pleasures of the world, and being tatashta, he forgets his real self and abuses his free will. So he is ousted from his eternal blissful abode in the spiritual kingdom of God and is encased in his twofold mortal garments. He then begins to enjoy and suffer according to the results of his karma. He is attached to the gross and subtle forms, born of the three qualities of Maya. He does not know that attachment to material forms is due to his avidya or ignorance of his real self and of Godhead. So he undergoes births and rebirths as the results of his karma. So here it is mentioned that he is ousted from his eternal blissful abode in the spiritual kingdom of God, in the sense that we are marginal potency, we are in between. So if we want to enjoy Maya, automatically we are ousted from that potential to stay in transcendental blissful abode. Like if on one table, on left side there are chapatis, on right side there are chapatis, on left side rice. And I am here, I can choose right or left. If I choose to take chapati, automatically I give up rice. Or if I take this mic world, automatically I'm ousted from that blissful realm, which I have potential, but I did not accept. And marginal potency, that plane, is also spiritual in the sense that it is beyond this material time and has nothing to do with matter. It is the, like in sometimes it is said like in Brahman state, and more clearly it is coming out from Mahavishnu, that marginal potency, and Vishnu is also beyond this Maya. So we are emanating from him. So we are not in Maya, but also not directly in like Golok or Vaikuntha. But we have potential. If we would choose that, then we would immediately be admitted there. But because we did not, so we are as same as ousted from there. But it does not mean that before we were in Golok Vrindavan serving Krishna, and then suddenly from there we fell into this world. That is not possible, because that higher taste is there and no one wants to enjoy this Maya. They are already tasting. And Krishna also told, whoever reaches my abode, he will not come back to this world. That is higher taste and also higher knowledge. They will never decide this. From marginal plane we are deciding. And that marginal plane is not in this material world, but also not directly in spirit. It is like a last, how to say, on the border of that spiritual realm, outside, on the last extremity of that spiritual plane, last extremity, on the border between material and that Lila Moy, transcendental world. It is on the border. But marginal potency is not material. It is transcendental. But now not yet taking shelter of Swarup Shakti. That is why she can fall down. But if she would take shelter of Swarup Shakti from marginal, then immediately admitted into that seva. And in this world also, now when we are bound, we have to take shelter of Hladini Shakti, Swarup Shakti. Then we can get the service of Bhagavan and we are liberated. That Hladini or Swarup Shakti in concrete form in this world is pure devotee. So we have to take his shelter, and gradually, according to the degree of our submission, we can be liberated and engaged in the service of Krishna. And when Krishna wants, he will take us to his abode. If we will become qualified, only those who have only one desire is to serve Krishna, they can be admitted into that transcendental realm, no one else. So those jivas who are bound, they undergo birth and rebirths as the result of their karma. Upadrashtanumantan cha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapyukto dehesmin purushah paraha. Krishna as Paramatman is the knower, monitor, enjoyer, etc. of our hearts. The Parampurusha, or the Supreme Self that dwells in this body, is known as the indwelling monitor, the looker-on. Usually I heard onlooker, but here it is in different sequence. Looker-on, the knower, the supporter, the enjoyer, and the Lord Supreme. Explanation. Jiva is my constant companion. He comes into close touch with me in his normal state. His freedom works in his tatashta state, the right use of which endows him with pure love, the acme of his real self, and the wrong use of which hurls him down into this mundane plane. I follow him as his eternal companion, Antarjami Paramatman. Hence I am the witness of his actions, the approver, the preserver, the sole enjoyer, the Supreme Self, or Paramatman, and the giver of the fruits of his actions in his conditioned state. So here, the approver, if Krishna does not approve of certain our idea, it can never happen. He gives that power and he gives that result also, and also that it can happen. Without his will, it cannot happen. Apo nicha jeep koti bancha kore. Krishna icha hoile tobe to phol dhore. Jiva may have many desires, but they cannot be fulfilled unless Krishna approves or gives that. So we create certain tendency in us by our previous actions, and according to that tendency we will act, and Krishna is approving that and also giving the result. That is why nothing can happen in this world, not only in transcendental world, in this world also, nothing can happen without the approval of Krishna. It is impossible. And he is all good. whatever is happening is for the best of all, but we are not realizing how this is so, because not having that vision. But we have to accept that whatever we are getting is by the grace of Krishna, and it is for our own good, to rectify us in our wrong propensity to enjoy. Krishna is the giver of fruits of his actions in his conditioned state. For every jiva, no conditioned soul can get fruit by himself without Krishna giving, and no jiva can give fruit to any other jiva unless Krishna gives, approves. That is why this point is repeated all the time. Don't blame others. They are not the cause of the results of your actions. Your actions produce certain result, and now that result is coming from Krishna through some instrument. But that instrument is not the cause. So trying to change him will not work. I have to rectify myself without blaming anyone, and also understanding that it is the grace of Krishna. It is for my own good to rectify me. So only those who can see the grace of Krishna in all circumstances, that it is his grace, and they are not blaming anyone, and they are submitting themselves to Krishna by body, mind, and speech, engaging in his service, they only can be actually liberated from all miseries, and they can get absolute bliss in the service of Krishna naturally. Because they already rectified their wrong mentality. If someone can see like that and act like that, then he already is rectified. So for him there is no more suffering needed to rectify him. Tomorrow we will further here. Tomorrow is Ekadashi, very auspicious.